Okay, so this is Battle Dreidel, and as you can see here, you have your arena, which is basically just you frame it with books so that, I have my zone, my end zone, and then there's the middle, and then there's, my opponent's end zone. And this is all about setting up the end zone. So there's two things that happens in your end zone, and it happens in 6 different quadrants, okay? So the first thing is that you're going to use a 6-sided dice. I don't have any right now, but I'll show you. And what I have here is zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what I'm going to do is roll for the positioning of my tower. So I'll roll my 6-sided dice and say I got a 1. That means my tower is going to happen in zone 1. This is almost like the quadrant or the sextant where I have to place my tower. So then I'm going to take my 3 6-sided dice, I'm going to roll them, and the highest number, say I got a 6, that's going to go on the bottom of my die. And I can place it anywhere within quadrant 1, okay? And I'm going to stack my tower, okay? Now the rule for the tower is that when the tower gets knocked over, like if the opponent successfully hits my tower with their spun dreidel, whether that's a small dreidel or a large dreidel, essentially the numbers that show on the dice, I have to give that number of coins to my opponent. So it's crucial that I protect my tower. So what I'll do is I'll roll for my tower position, I'll roll my tower number, and then I'll stack my tower, okay? And then I'm going to roll for the position of the Mishkin. So the Mishkin is simply, it's just like a 3-sided unit right here. You can just make it out of foil or out of cardboard. Okay, and you want to make it wide enough that a dreidel can get in there. So it's about 2.5 inches in terms of width. So what I'll do is I'll take my 6-sided dice and I'll roll for my Mishkin. Okay, cool. So I got a 6, which means I have to place my Mishkin in the 6th position. Okay, so I place my Mishkin, and then what I'm also going to do is roll each subsequent round of the game. So when we go through all the different versions of the battle, I'm gonna roll for positioning of the Mishkin. So the most dangerous positioning is where the front is towards the opponent. And then probably the best positioning is where the front of it is facing towards the back of my end zone. So it has to be a bounce shot to get into the Mishkin, which is very hard to do. So what I'm going to try to do then is roll a dreidel. And the dreidel is going to give me positioning of the Mishkin. So in this case I rolled shin, looks like a W, and that means that I have to place my Mishkin in the most dangerous position, okay? And I want to protect my Mishkin, because if the opponent is able to get a dreidel into there, that it stops rolling inside the Mishkin, then what ends up happening is the opponent takes the entire kitty. So if they attack my tower, they get from my gold reserve all the coins. And if they get the Mishkin, then they get the entire kitty. Usually it's just a gambling round, and somebody's going to be the gambler. And one of their dreidels is going to be the gambler designate. So the next thing is the ingots of Zinj. And the ingots of Zinj is basically quarters. So we all start with 4 quarters. And I can use my quarters in 2 ways. One is I can use them defensively. So I might stack all 4 of them in this case, right in front of the Mishkin. You can't be inside the Mishkin, but you can be right in front, like a hockey goalie. And this gives me like a nice defensive bulwark. It's almost a wall. You could also stack them next to each other so that it forms a wall and it protects your Mishkin. You could also stack your ingots of Zinj to protect your tower, okay? Now the thing is that we're going to roll 3d6, okay? So you take your 3d6, and you're going to roll them, and you're going to establish the value of an ingot of Zinj. So in this case, okay, I got an 11, which means that every ingot of Zinj that I have at the end of the game is actually worth to me 11 coins, okay? But then, it's double that if I can successfully send an ingot of Zinj across the field so that it stops and comes to a stop in the opponent's end zone. If I've done that, then I get double 11 from the opponent. So the opponent has to really protect his end zone, particularly from the ingots of zinj, because they're a major scoring opportunity. However, if the opponent successfully knocks down my spinning ingot of zinj with one of his dreidels, then what ends up happening is that the opponent, or if my ingot of zinj doesn't make it, if it fails to produce the outcome, then the opponent keeps the ingot of zinj. So ingots of zinj are risky, but they can get you a great reward. But they're also very useful as a blocker. And let's say I start the game with 4 quarters, but then I end up with like 7 quarters. Well, I can really successfully wall off and block off my tower and my mishkan. Okay? And then we're going to go through the subsequent rounds. Okay? So this is how you set up your end zone, right? And then here's the subsequent rounds. Okay, so round 1, you make a designated gambler by tapping whichever gambler dreidel you have in the middle. Okay, that means that this is the one the opponent wants to watch out for. And here's why. If I'm the one whose turn it is to gamble, say I have initiative, we take turns in that, and I roll, then we're using the typical dreidel game. Okay, so we ante up. We start with like ante of 2, then we go to ante of 4, then we go to ante of 8, then we go to ante of 16. So you can have a different ante each round, okay? And depending on how I roll my dreidel, I'm going to either, take from the kitty or give 2 to the kitty or get none. So that's typical dreidel, okay? That's how you start. The second round is we go with 1 dreidel each. We have a gambler designate. It's my turn to gamble, and I roll. And when I roll, I have to roll in the middle, okay, for the second round. And my opponent is going to launch his dreidel across to try to knock out my dreidel. Now, if he knocks out my dreidel, or if I fail to produce a decent spin that spins for 2 seconds or more, then I end up getting shin, which means that I have to contribute 2 coins, not ingots of zinj, but 2 of my main coins to the kitty, okay? So it's really advantageous in round 2 for the opponent to hit my dreidel. But then I get a turn, and the opponent spins his dreidel or her dreidel, and I get a chance to knock it out, okay? And so what ends up happening is if you succeed in hitting your opponent's dreidel, then you have a chance to grab the kitty. You have a chance for your gambler to grab the kitty. And then we start in on battle rounds. Okay, so battle round number 1 is you're going to have essentially small dreidels and 1 large dreidel, okay? So in battle round 1, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take these papers away so you can see my end zone better, right? In this round, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my large dreidel. So I don't have one yet, but set my large dreidel up in the end zone. I'm going to spin my large dreidel, okay? And the opponent gets to launch all of his or her small dreidels across the field to try to knock out my large dreidel, okay? And here's how scoring works. In that round, the only scores is really attacks on the mishkan and the tower and attacks on a large dreidel, okay? So I, as the defender, right, I set my large dreidel to motion, and then I have all my small dreidels stacked. And when the opponent starts sending his dreidels across, I'm trying to defend. I'm trying to knock out his, okay? Because if the opponent gets hits on my big dreidel, or kills my big dreidel, or gets hits on my mishkan or on my tower, then he gets points. Okay, so in that round, I'm setting my large dreidel, which I call the beast, and that you have to defend your beast from the opponent's attack. All right, then the opponent takes his turn. And within that, we always have, within each of those rounds, a gambler designate. So say, if I'm defending my large dreidel in round 3, I also designate a gambler. Now I'm going to use that gambler, right? And I'm going to know that I'm gambling for the kitty. I'm gambling like in regular dreidel for the kitty. And the opponent is watching out. He knows my orange dreidel is my gambler designate. So he really wants to knock that dreidel over. But I still want to use my orange dreidel, for example, to protect my mishkan. Because the mishkan could be more of a pot. It could be the whole kitty, or I have to use my gambler to protect my tower, because this is my opportunity, and it's my round, right? And so I have a chance to win the kitty, But if the opponent gets a dreidel into my Mishkin, an undefended Mishkin, he gets the whole kitty, and he gets to gamble next time. So there's a chance for him to really get ahead. All right. So each of us takes a turn defending our large dreidel. Okay. Then we take turns with the small dreidels. And so what you have to do is you have to set all of your dreidels in motion within your backfield. And you have a responsibility to try to get them all spinning at the same time. Okay? That's your job. And the opponent, what he has to do is send his large dreidel across the field. This is called the Beast Killer. And the Beast can knock down as many of the opponent's standing defenders, his standing Davids, his small dreidels, as possible. And that's how he gets points. In any of these rounds, you can also attack with your ingots of Zinj. So that's a nice opportunity to attack with your ingot of Zinj. Okay? And likewise, the person who's attacking with his beast and sending his beast across, he cannot attack with his small dreidels, but he can defend his territory with his small dreidels. So, for example, if I send my beast across to try to knock down a bunch of spinning dreidels, then the opponent can be sending ingots of Zinj my way. Okay? That's what he has left. He's not allowed to use his beast in this round. But when he sends the ingots of Zinj, I have to defend against them. You know? And I want to work multiple spins. You know, I want to work backspin. I want to work side spin. I want to work also upside down spin. So if you can successfully add upside down, you get +1 to any hit. And if you spin with your left hand or your offhand, you know, your right hand if you're a left-handed person, then you get extra. So in fact, to spin it upside down with your offhand, that ends up getting +2 for every hit. Okay? So we've done our round, which is trying to slaughter the beast. We've done our round where the beast tries to slaughter the opponent's Davids. And then we're going to do invasion rounds, okay? During invasion rounds, points are scored by succeeding in getting spinners, you know, living spinning dreidels, into the opponent's end zone. So you actually accrue points by invading and successfully taking over that area. And the defender simply has to defend his area, okay? And so you get, you know, X amount of points for every one of your Davids that makes it into the opponent's end zone, and you get X amount of points for your beast to stay alive in the opponent's end zone, okay? And so that's invasion round, and the same thing, you know, we're protecting our Mishkin, we're protecting our tower, we're anteing up, there's always a gambler designate, you're always gunning for that gambler designate and trying to knock it out so that you make the opponent get shin, and add 2 to the kitty and give you a chance to sweep the kitty in your gambler round, okay? So it's like multivariable calculus. And then the last round of the game, when you go through all these rounds, you re-roll your tower, you re-roll your Mishkin, okay? But you keep your ingots of Zinj that you've earned, all right? You re-roll your Mishkin positioning, your tower positioning, as well as your Mishkin facing. Okay, so this gives people a chance. And also in subsequent rounds, the ante is higher. So we go through, you know, all 6 of these rounds with one normal ante per round. And then we're going to raise the ante. Okay, so each time we're going to have a higher ante. Okay, each player starts with 108 coins, 4 ingots of Zinj, 6 Davids, and 1 beast. Okay, and 3 3-sided dice and 1 Mishkin. Okay, that's how the game starts, all right? At any time, you can negotiate the sale of a David. At any time, you can negotiate the sale of an ingot of Zinj. So if a player is behind, and if you want to keep play going, you can always sell off your ingots of Zinj and maybe have a chance to win. And that's something that the opponent can be okay with. Also, the opponent may want to buy one of your Davids to give him that much more chance of attack or that much more chance of scores, all right? And then the last round of each game is you need basically a large a top, like a fighting top of about 5 inches tall. And what you do is, this is a team round, okay? And you set that top to spinning in the middle, and both players have to use their Davids and their beasts to kill the top. The top is called Goliath. all right? And so you make hits on Goliath, and for every time you hit Goliath, you get, let's say, I guess for every time you hit Goliath, you get a certain number of points, right? That come out of like the extra bank. This is the Goliath bank, which is like another little reserve of money. So you roll 1d6 and say it's a 4. Okay, so now every hit that hits the Goliath is 4 that you get from that bank. Okay, so you can add to your funds. Okay, and for the kill shot on the Goliath, you get 8. Okay, and then you need to put the Goliath down, and that means you need 2 more shots to knock the Goliath down. Okay, and you can recover your dreidels at any time during this Goliath attack. You can always grab your dreidel back as long as you don't mess with the Goliath. And so every time you hit the Goliath once it's down, you also get double the 1d6 that was rolled. Okay? And so this is a chance to just work together in harmony. However, if the opponent or if you want to be shady, you can use the Goliath round as an opportunity to attack the opponent's Mishkan, or attack the opponent's tower, or to put ingots of Zinj into the opponent's backfield. Now, it's considered poor sport to do this, but you also have to do the math calculation. So if it's only worth 1 to hit a Goliath, right, and it's only worth 2 to kill or put down the Goliath once it's been killed, once it's been knocked down, then it probably starts to make more sense to use your dreidels instead of hitting the Goliath, to use your dreidels to go towards the opponent's backfield and attack his vulnerable spaces. Especially if you witness that the opponent is gung-ho about killing Goliath, then he's not using his Davids or his beast to defend his territory. So you have to make calculations during the game of like what's worth doing, and then notice that, if you give up on killing the Goliath, then the opponent is also going to give up on killing the Goliath. Okay? And you also have to remember that during the Goliath round, there's still a gambler designate. So you have 2 chances at the Goliath. One in which I'm the gambler, and I make the gambler designate, say my blue dreidel. And 2, where the opponent is going to make his own gambler designate and say, this is what I have to be watching out for. So even though it's a team round, and even though we're both able to score in this case, the crucial thing is to kind of game theory it and figure out, who wants to be really attacking the Goliath when you have a chance to attack your opponent. Sometimes the Goliath goes completely unnoticed and nobody cares about it because they're both just attacking and defending their own territory. Okay? So once we've finished, everybody gets a regular dreidel roll. That's round 1. Everybody gets a single dreidel roll that can be attacked. That's round 2. Everybody sets up their beast in their backfield, and it gets attacked by Davids, and you can defend with your regular Davids. All right? Everybody then sets all their Davids to motion within their backfield, and the opponent can attack with the beast only, and with ingots of Zinj. And then we do an invasion round, where you send your pieces across the field to try to spin to their unhit finishing of their spin in the opponent's backfield to get points. And then we do, there's always a gambler designate in those rounds. And then we do the Goliath round, okay? And then once the Goliath round is finished, then you re-roll the die for the positioning of your Mishkan. Okay, my Mishkan has to change. You re-roll the die for the positioning of your tower. My tower has to change. Now my tower has to be in this quadrant. Okay? Then you re-roll your tower. Okay? The highest number goes on the bottom, and then you can stack them as you like. Okay? Because, the lowest die is least likely to change positioning. So that's why we keep it as the highest number, so that it's always, reasonably good to hit the tower. And then we use a dreidel to determine the positioning of the Mishkan. Okay? And then you can stack your ingots of Zinj. So now I want to stack, say I have 2 left. I'm going to stack 1 to protect my Mishkan and 1 on the likely approach to my tower. And at any time, I can also still take that ingot and send it across the field, hopefully to finish spinning in the opponent's backfield. Okay? And so you get good at these hand skills. All right? And so then you go through the rounds, and now that second turn, now we've reestablished our Mishkan, we've reestablished our tower, we've replaced our ingots of Zinj, okay? The only replacing of the ingot of Zinj during the normal 7 rounds is to pick it up and send it at the opponent. So you have to like position your ingots, the way you want them at the beginning of your set of rounds. And then you can also do like hand skills with the dreidels, which is actually really fun. So I found that this is a pretty effective method, is you just stack your dreidels and then you can send, and you can have quickness in terms of, your attacks and your defenses. And so this is the basic of the game, is that there's always a gambling round, but there's always skill that can subvert the gambling, and the skill is watching the opponent's gambler designate and attacking it, okay? But there's always the game a chance, because, if you just save your gambler designate till the end, stack it in your last position, and then just carefully craft it, and then it lands on a good number, like if it lands on Gimel, then you get the whole pot, okay? And there's also the skill set of protecting your Mishkan, and there's also the risk and the gamble of sending your ingots of Zinj. There's also team play, and there's also game theory in deciding how to do your team play. And so basically, it's a pretty cheap game. You just get dreidels for a few dollars off of Amazon. Most people have dice. Most people have quarters. I like to use nickels for the 108 coins, or pennies. And then you're also going to start out with the Goliath Bank. The Goliath Bank is what you draw from hitting Goliath, because it's a team game. So you can boost the total number of funds in the game by hitting Goliath successfully. Whereas, if you are cheesy during the Goliath round and you attack the opponent's Mishkan or you attack the opponent's tower, then essentially you're just in the normal, flow of money between you and the opponent. But if you hit Goliath, you actually add funds to the flow of the game and prolong it. So it's really nice to do that. So you start with 36 funds in the Goliath, or you can do 72 funds in the Goliath. All these are variables. And basically, yeah, it's just like the most fun game. I just give tribute to my friend Eric Ra'anan Fishman, who is just like a genius. And he's amazing, really good homie. And yeah, we invented this game together probably like 10, 11 years ago on one Hanukkah back in the Bronx. And we perfected it in Boulder. And now it's just kind of a systematized game. So yeah, 12 dreidels, 1 spinning top, 2 large dreidels, 2 pieces of tinfoil, a bunch of books, and a bunch of coins. And you got yourself a game. And that's Battle Dreidel, also called David and Goliath, also called The Beast. Anyways, hope you guys have a lot of fun with that. Thanks for listening.